Hello, welcome to the table. My name's Jonathan Hicks.
I'm Steve Raine.
And I'm Mark Windle.
We're back at the Dice Cup, and this evening we're talking about games to play with your family at Christmas. Now, this can be a tricky proposition because you've potentially got Granny and Grandad over there, plus the little kids, plus everyone in between. We've tried to pick games that potentially play a wide range of ages and sort of gaming experience, that kind of thing. Now obviously you're going to have different groups. Your family's going to be different from everyone else's family, and it might be that certain games are going to work better with others. So we've tried to pick 5 different categories of games essentially, and then you can pick what you feel is the most appropriate category for you, and we've got a couple of recommendations in each category. So our first category is deduction games, and Mark is going to tell us about
Deception. Murder in Hong Kong. So, as I say, there's been a murder, and we're going to solve it in the most convoluted way possible. This is a deduction mixed with hidden role game. So, in the very easiest version, which I suspect you'll play with the widest one in your family to start off with, there's going to be one person who's done a murder, and there's going to be one person trying to reveal to the rest of the gang who the actual murderer was. This is done by, each player gets 2 sets of 4 cards, and they must pick one off the top and one off the bottom if they're the murderer, and that only the forensic scientist knows. So, for example, I might pick shoe and elevator. I don't know why, but let's say that they're my 2 cards. And then, once the forensic scientists know what's going on, they then got to explain by the list of, I think it's 6 cards. That one involves like locational stuff, one is picked from a range, and the others are random. And they're essentially saying, so they might go, okay, shoe. So if I go location of the body, foot, that might help them. And then location, well, office block for being an elevator. You know, it is kind of quite set away. It'd be too easy if you just say it's a foot and it's a shoe, and if an elevator. So it's going to be tricky to work it out why to add the game to it, and that's what makes it fun, because you're looking around everybody's different sets of items, you're just trying to think what could possibly link with some of them, and then inevitably the forensic scientists have a set of cards that's rubbish to them, doesn't help them. So if anything, it's pushing the players further away, so they get opportunities to swap them out, and that's really the game.
The reason I like this over some other hidden role games is it's not about who can lie the best. You just have to pretend it's not you. You just avoid it's not me. Everyone's going to say it's not them, but you don't sit there trying to make up something that you did do, like you do in Werewolf, or you just have a shouting match with someone else. It's clearly you. It's clearly you. It's clearly you. Yep. You don't get that in this game, and that's why it's probably more playable with people who aren't actually gamers.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, like all social deduction games, really, you're trying to work out who's the bad guy. In this case, it's the murderer. But in this one, you have actual evidence to go off. It's like, we've been linked to this one and this one. It could be this. It could be this. As you say, it's not just random finger pointing, which makes it much more pleasant, particularly to play with families.
It's not the person who shouts loudest wins.
Yes.
It's the person who provides the most logical choice, and they can take their risk and throw their guess in. And as the murder, it's quite fun because you are sort of going, it could also be that, and it could also be that.
You're just trying to point it away from you, not actually glare at people. That's quite nice. So the other deduction game we've got for you is Mysterium, which is a cooperative deduction game where someone is a ghost and you've got paranormal investigators coming round, and the ghost is kind of giving them dreams, and you've got effectively 6 nights to work out 3 things given from the dreams that the ghost has given you. So you first have to work out, each person has a different set of 3, and you have to work out which person died and where they died and what weapon they were killed with before the end of the 6th night. At the 7th night, the ghost gives everyone one final dream, assuming everyone's got to that point, to try and work out which of the 6 people actually is the victim here, so that you can exercise the house effectively.
It's nice because it's cooperative. You know, particularly a lot of families, when you talk about playing a board game, they just think, oh, well, we'll just kind of roll some dice and try and beat each other. One person wins and everyone else goes off in a mood kind of thing. But as soon as they realise this is cooperative, we're all working together, it's like a light bulb goes off in their head or something. It's great to play cooperative games with the family. I think you kind of avoid all those arguments.
You just probably not give a kid the ghost in the very first game or something like that to a young child, but you can have really fun because the dad will pass the young child a clue in the dream, and the kid will go, I don't know what it is, and the rest of the table goes, I don't know what it is, Dad, you've done something rubbish here, and you have a great laugh about it, even though you're still all on the same team, and the dad's not allowed to speak either.
It probably works quite well as a family game as well, because trying to work out what you believe your family pick up on, as in the clue. So knowing your family helps better. It's not just a case. The better you know the players, the better you can be as the ghost and into work, which makes it more fun because it brings you together.
Really hard to do, I think.
It is. All right, our next category then is team games. Again, sort of following the cooperative spirit. It's nice to be on a team and feel like you've got people on your side. And so our first pick for this is a game called Codenames, which many of you are probably familiar with. And it is, as Mark says, one of those games where the more you kind of know people, the more you can get on their wavelength. You know, if you have some children on one particular team, you can pick clues that you know are going to be aimed at their age group kind of thing. But essentially you're trying to convey, you've got a grid of words in the middle of the table, and some of the words belong to your team, some of the words belong to the other team, and you're trying to get your team to say your words before the other team, but all you can do is give a single word clue. So I might say train, and then you give a number. So if I say train 2, it means there are 2 of the words in the middle that connect with train. So for example, it might be tunnel and ride, and you're trying to think, well, do they connect? But you have to be careful because A, you don't want it to connect to one of the opponent's words, because if they guess the wrong word, then they've got one of their words. But also there's one assassin word in there, and if anyone guesses the assassin word, their team instantly loses. So you've got to be very careful. It's a little bit of downtime, but I've had huge success with this with my family. Despite that downtime, they always want to play it, and after we've played it once, they immediately want to play it again, which is a sign of a great game.
Such a good game as well, because there's different versions of it. You've got Codenames Disney for the young ones, you've got Codenames Marvel for the geeks, if you've got a lot of geeks. So you've got Codenames After Dark if your family is generally all adults. You've got Codenames Pictures, which just makes it easier as well.
Codenames Duet.
Codenames Duet for 2 people if you want, which is a great game.
It handles a good range of player numbers as well, which is important. If you don't know how many people go into the teams, as long as there's at least 2 on either side, don't have to be even.
Yes.
Because you can find a lot of team games, they have to be equal, but it doesn't really matter that much on this. If you're playing 4v3 or something like that, it's perfectly fine, which makes it good.
The other team game we've got for you is a game called Muse, which was recently released this year, and it is effectively a team-style Dixit sort of game where you're giving the other team 1 Dixit-style card and 1 instruction to do it. You basically get to choose which they are, and they look at the instruction, they say name and colour of the rainbow, and then they look at the card, which has no colours of the rainbow on it, and they have to give a colour which might get their team to refer back to this card. But you have really weird ones. You've got colours of the rainbow, you've got poses with your fingers, you've got sounds without using words, and really weird things like books and films and stuff, and you've got lots of different cards. And then what happens is after they've given that 1 clue for that 1 card, they pass that 1 card back with the other 5 cards you didn't give them. You shuffle them up, you put them all face up, and their teammates have to try and work out which was the card they were passed. So in terms of kind of cooperating here, it is much more, it's a more balanced game than Dixit, because the scores, you can't just rely on 2 people knowing lots about each other and passing that information across and scoring really well where everyone else struggles. You're really relying on the team here, but the other team can do you in by the clue they pass you.
It does help to know the other people, which is why it's great for families. And I've had huge success with Dixit as a game, playing with my family, but the brilliance of Muse, if you like, is it takes that Dixit idea but makes it a team game. Whereas Dixit rather is just everyone's on their own team, but with Muse you have 2 distinct teams and you're working together, so if one person's better than the other, you can sort of hide to a certain extent in the rest of your team. It works really well.
Yeah, and I think it's also got that little comedy aspect, because some of the things that people have to do are silly, but they're not socially to be, oh, this is annoying, like people. They're just slight comedy things, and you always want to pick like the worst of the 2 things to give them. You think, I'm going to do you in now by giving this, and then they manage to do it, and then you get really annoyed because they manage to somehow do you in.
Make a clue using only your hands, and you can see them trying to work out how to put their hands in a way that matches something on the card they've got.
Facial expressions was one of them. We gave them a card with an animal on it, and they were trying to do a tortoise or something, and you could see them kind of go. It's great. All right, our next category is take that games. You know, sometimes you just want to kind of go splat, but in a way that's actually fun, because so many take that games I find are really not very fun. But we've picked 2 in particular which we really enjoy, and the first of these is Cash and Guns, which essentially simulates the Mexican standoff you get in games, and it is one of those games that, although you might not think it, is actually great to play with the older members of the family and with the kids. Everyone gets a sort of bright orange foam gun, and you sort of do 3, 2, 1, and you all point your gun at someone else. So everyone's pointing the gun at the same time. But secretly beforehand, some people have loaded their gun and some people haven't, because you've got a very limited amount of ammo. You have to be very careful about how you spend it, and essentially you're just trying to survive while bumping off as many of the other people as you want. As you can, and in the middle at the end, whoever's left standing gets to share out some loot. So there might be some diamonds or some cash, and you sort of do several rounds of this, bumping people off, grabbing as much loot as you can, and whoever has the most loot at the end is the winner. But it's silly fun, and it is a lot of fun.
It does have player elimination, which most take that games do, but it's quite light. It's quite, it doesn't take too long.
And it's well done because you have a certain number of lives. It's not like you'll die when you're shot initially.
Yeah.
So when people start getting eliminated, it's almost going to end at that point.
Kind of speeds the game as well, I suppose. The fewer the players,
but it adds to the game as well, because you're not only trying to shoot them out the round, but you're trying to make them back away, because you've got the chance. You think 3 people are pointing me, I've only got 1 life left, I better back away. And if you back away, you don't get shot, but you miss out on the chance of loot. And if no one actually had a bullet in their gun, you've missed out on the chance of loot where you could have stayed in and got it.
I mean, it sounds quite offensive because you've got foam guns, but that melts after a while. And it wouldn't be as fun without the foam guns, I'm afraid. It's always fun, but probably just be able to. It looks silly, but it works really well. And because it's all simultaneous, everything, people are not waiting around too much, unless they die, but even then it's not for very long.
It's quick.
So I've got the second one this group, and that's King of Tokyo. And this is good for people because most people have heard of Yahtzee at some point, and it is essentially Yahtzee re-envisioned into a kaiju monster battle for Tokyo, as you get it. So everybody's got on their action, they've got dice, they roll them, and then they're trying to get sets to them. So whether it be sets to whether to attack other players, to heal, to be able to get special cards or score points. And because it's Yahtzee, anybody knows it. I mean, you might have to give them a little. Here's what the sheets do, what the symbols do initially. But once round, when they've said we've done it, it's really easy. And because of that, it's fun. There's no complexity. You can play it with any age. Everybody has fun because sometimes you just I'm going to hit you. Why? Because gives you a reason. Gives
you 2 ways to win as well. You can go by scoring points. So those people, I don't want to offend anyone. I don't want to attack anyone. I'm just going to sit back. And then you've got your younger brother who goes slash, can just go and try and kill everyone and win by that way. So it's quite nice.
Because once they get into Tokyo, when the attack symbols they roll on the dice hit everyone at once. But as soon as someone realises it damages everybody all at once. This is great. Off we go. But actually then you realise staying in Tokyo for any length of time, everyone's hitting you. It's tricky, but it's a lot of fun.
But the player powers as well add to the game as well. So they give the game replayability because the powers change, and you can do things one game that you can't do the next. That's quite nice. Both of those games, if you are playing with people who get offended when you're getting picked on, or if you get offended if they're eliminated, probably aren't the wisest games. But other than that, I think they're great.
All right, our next category is what we call light strategy games. Sometimes you don't want to play just a silly, light fun game. You want something with a bit more meat to it, something that you could introduce other members of your family to. And so we picked a couple of games that would be perfectly suitable to play with people who haven't really played any board games before, but for someone who wants something a bit more cerebral, something to think over. So our first choice is a game called Century Spice Road, which is an engine building game. So you have a bunch of different types of spices represented by cubes, and on your turn you either play a card which gets you more cubes, or possibly converts the lower value cubes into higher value spices, or you can buy more cards to kind of add to your engine. Once you get the better cards, you can use them to get more cubes or upgrade more cubes, but ultimately you're trying to get points. There's a whole bunch of cards where you need to cash in the cubes to get the points. So you're collecting all these cubes, upgrading the cubes, and you cash them in to get the points cards. It's very quick, the turns really whiz by, and it's one of those that you can play it and after it's like, I get it now, let's just play it again, because it's just so fast. Really enjoy this one.
Yeah, you could have picked Splendor easily enough, but it has a similar sort of role. You speed up, speed up, buy, and whoever does it the most efficiently will win. But people do often want like a second or even a third play after the play against.
Yeah, because I think as you see the cards that come out, I think the biggest advantage of this game is, as you said, the speed of the turns and the fact that symbology is really easy. For being a strategy game, you know what every card does because the picture's so obvious what it does. Yeah. So you're just trying to work out how do I get from what I've got to get to those cards at the top. And you can all think about that path.
The other light strategy game we've got is probably a family favourite with a lot of people now, but if you haven't played it, I would recommend you do so. That's Ticket to Ride. It's probably like the go-to gateway game for families. I've taken it back the last 2 Christmases to play with my parents and my brothers as well, and even though I might have to remind them of the rules again, they understand exactly what to do. You collect cards to build tracks, try and complete journeys, and whoever gets the most points is the winner.
You know, when we're trying to think about possible light strategy games to put on this list, we're like, should we put Ticket to Ride? It's like, oh, but that's always on every list like this. And I thought about it and thought, actually, that's because it really is the best choice. For this particular category, I've played Ticket to Ride loads with my family. As a gamer, I'm still very happy to play it. It's engaging for a gamer, and yet it's so straightforward. I played it with kids, I played it with grandparents, and they all get it immediately. And you know, there's something about you building little tracks with trains. It just works really, really well.
Also, it's set collection, but it's also a race, so there is that little bit of pressure always on there, and you can sometimes do other people in, it doesn't feel offensively done. It doesn't feel like you're being like somebody's trying to pick on you, but you also know that if you can do that quick, the chances are you may be effective.
Depending on which version you play, you have stations and trains. Yeah. But any version's good. Some are better, some are different, but they're all good.
There's a reason why it's a classic. It's because it's a classic.
Yeah, it really is.
Okay, our last category of games we've just called fun. Sometimes you just want a bit of light-hearted fun, nothing too serious. And Steve's going to tell us about our first game on this.
So the first game is a Nomia. Nomia is effectively verbal snap. You've got decks of cards in the middle, you turn over one of the cards, it has a symbol on it. It also has a category on it. So my symbol might be a diamond, my category might be US states. Jonathan turns over a card, his might have animals, but his symbol might not match mine, that's absolutely fine. But as soon as a symbol matches, you basically have to, let's say Mark pulls over one and it matches with mine. As soon as that matches, I have to say one of Mark's category and he has to say one of mine. Whoever does it the first takes the other person's card. So if Mark said Alaska before I said peanut or whatever his category might be, he would take my card and brilliant. So it's effectively snap. But the kind of chained actions or the chained matches you can get, because basically if Mark takes my card, the card underneath my card might match with Jonathan's, or might match with someone else's, and you get another match, and I think, oh, I've just lost a card to Mark, and Jonathan goes, and he gets my next one, oh, I've lost another one, and I get through this chain of just losing them, or you think you're so desperate to say something that you blurt out something that isn't actually a category, and you have hilarious fun.
It's much harder than it sounds actually, because you know it might be soap operas or something on the other person's card, and you flip over flowers on yours, and you have to say something on theirs, but you can't get daffodil out of your head. It's like you flipped over flowers, daffodil. I can't think of any soap operas now. It's just incredibly difficult. And I think the word anomia actually means like a difficulty expressing, like you know the word in your head, but it won't come out of your mouth. It's like a medical condition, and you really feel that so many times. Like I can't say. Even though it's the simplest thing, it just doesn't seem to want to come out of your mouth. It's a lot of fun. Okay, our next pick, Mark, do you want to tell us about that one? Telestrations,
which is probably the game that's made me cry and laugh the most of any games I've ever played. So this one's nice and simple. Everybody gets a book. It's a erasable book, so it's not one use. And you've all got a word, but only you know your word, and first you have to draw that picture, and then you pass it on to the player on your left, and you're going to receive a picture. You've got to guess what the picture's about, and you repeat, and that's the game. That's literally it. You're just going around. At the end, people are going to hope that your word that you started with is what you've got at the end of it. Chances are you don't, and that's the best bit of the game.
And you want to play this where not everyone can draw as well, because that's where you get the fun at the very end. You can score it, but I would suggest you don't do. It's effectively Chinese whispers, but with drawing. And you go through at the end and you think, okay, I started with robot. Oh yeah, Jonathan guessed robot. Mark I think he drew a robot. The next person guessed tree man. And he goes around and he gets back to me, and it turns out to be something completely random.
It's one of those games where the worse people are at drawing, the more fun they're going to have playing the game, which is great, because usually things like Pictionary, someone's always really good in your family at drawing. It's like, oh, they're always going to win, aren't they? But with this one, it's just about having fun.
Which is why I suggest not to score it, because other than people might then take it too seriously, and you shouldn't be doing that.
Alright, so those are our picks for games to play with your family over Christmas. Are there any games that you would recommend playing with a family? Do let us know in the comments below. Thanks very much for watching. I've been Jonathan Hicks.
I'm Steve Raine.
And I've been Mark Windle.
See you next time.
Bye.